everyone, welcome to this 60-minute yin class that we're doing today. Some of you might be familiar with yin yoga, some of you might not. So I'll just give you a little brief explanation of what yin is. So yin is a very different approach to the traditional yoga that most of us are familiar with. It is a very passive class. We hold the poses much longer, so 5-6 minutes in each pose. And the idea is to let the shape of the pose really do the work. So once you get into it, the idea is to relax, to let the nervous system relax, and to start to move into the breath and really become aware of this presence that we're in. And I thought this was kind of a cool time of year to do it. I always hear, and I'm sure you do too, this holiday season, everyone goes, oh my gosh, I can't believe how fast it goes by. It's already almost Christmas. It's already almost whatever holiday you celebrate, or it's already happened. And it goes like this. And I think so much of that has to do with us not being present, which is so sad this time of year, because really all of these holidays, they're literally a celebration of life. And we end up getting so caught up in these to-do lists and these busy schedules and so many obligations that we really lose sight of what it's meant to be, this great celebration of family and being alive, and this gift that we've been given of getting to appreciate each and every breath. And so I, this time of year, really rely on this kind of very slow, it's like a gift to yourself, this yin yoga. So it can be really challenging in a very different way. So as you get into these poses, if you're new to this approach of yoga, don't be surprised if you find yourself feeling a little antsy. You might get this like internal narrative going, this different voice trying to tell you stories. And I just ask that you continue to return to your senses and to return to your breath. There'll be a lot of long pauses where I'm going to try to be quiet, which is hard for me, but I will do my best so that you can really start to feel the senses opening around you. So if you've got nice music that you want to play, quiet, it can have lyrics, whatever makes you comfortable, you can definitely have that. I have essential oils here that I put on myself, so I have this really nice smell going, the fire, the sound of that. So just try to make yourself as comfortable for this and try to really enrich the senses. Okay, so we're going to start in a lying spinal twist pose, which should be pretty comfortable for everyone. The only prop you might need is a blanket. We'll use that later. But the nice thing about yin yoga is that it's not like restorative where you need 50,000 props. It's really, you really don't need anything at all. So we're going to start lying down on our backs. Go ahead and just pause here for a moment before we get into the pose. Close your eyes. You can have your knees bent. And I want you just to take a few deep breaths. Feel yourself breathing not just into the lungs, but also into the belly. And not just into the front of the body, but also into the back of the body. Let your senses take in everything that's going on around you. And even if there are things that aren't quite perfect, that's part of your experience. It's part of being present. So just accept that. Now with your next few breaths, go ahead and start to bring your knees into your chest. Keep the knees up nice and high. And then trying to keep them together, even though there's really no alignment. So if it feels comfortable, you're good. But trying to keep the knees together. Start to drop them over to the right, keeping the left knee on top. You want your entire shin and ankle and everything to be down on the ground here. And you're going to open the arms up and turn and look over your left shoulder. I'm just going to offer you a few options before we start to drop a little deeper into this pose. So you could, if your left arm, sometimes it feels like too much to have the arms spread wide open. So you could take a blanket or a pillow and kind of prop up your left arm. And that can make the pose a little more comfortable for you. You can also get a little deeper into the twist by bringing the elbow up over your head, letting the hands, the back of the hand, rest over kind of on the right side of the head. And this can just open up and elongate this left side. If the hand starts to feel at all tingly, just bring it down. Close your eyes. And to notice the breath. And to notice if there are any areas in your body that are wanting to work, which is common. And see if through your breath and through being mindful of your space, if you can begin to let some of that tension go. In this time of year, there's a lot going on, so it can be several times that you're releasing that. So as you begin to become familiar with this shape, as your body begins to relax into it a little bit more, you'll start to notice that when you are present, those thoughts, those negative things, stress, anger, resentment, guilt, anxiety, all of those negative emotions we feel, it's very rare that any of those ever happen in the present moment. Begin to notice how you're feeling right now, how your body is accepting the shape. And there's no right or wrong. Take about 10 more breaths on this side. Without rushing, as you finish your 10th breath, slowly bring yourself flat on your back. You can keep the knees bent. That probably will feel the best for most of us. Then I want you to just let your body process that. So these yin poses take us a lot deeper than the traditional poses where we're using a lot of muscle force and we're moving quickly through them. So just take a moment to realize the difference in your left side right now. Take a moment to notice how your breath is moving. Allow yourself to become very curious about all of your senses. One of the biggest things we practice here in Yin is the willingness to slow down, the ability to move from thing to thing without feeling rushed, right? And so, taking that, when you're ready, when your body feels ready, when you feel like you have understood what's happened on the left side and you're ready to explore and see what happens on the right, you'll once again hug your knees into your chest. I like to keep my knees up nice and high. I find the twist is a little more comfortable that way, so I try to keep them up high as I start to drop them over to the left. And let the legs settle in. Arms open up. They can open up straight. You could kind of do like a goalpost arm. Again, propping up this right arm can lessen kind of this pull that sometimes can make it uncomfortable in your ribs or in your shoulder. And then if you want to go the opposite route and make it a little more intense, you can explore taking the elbow up over the head. For some of us, the elbow might touch, but you at least want the back of the hand. Bring it around the head. And if the knees slip off each other, it's fine. If the pose kind of evolves just on its own, your body kind of telling you this is the shape it should be, that's fine. And once you have found the shape, close your eyes. Begin to turn your attention back to the breath, knowing that, of course, there's a very good chance that that little mind is going to start talking to you, that little person in there. I've heard it described as the roommate that lives in your head. They're going to start chattering, most likely. If you hear that little chatter starting, it's been offered to me before, these little steps, so see if it's helpful for you. Once you notice it chattering, you recognize it. I want you to take deep breath, deeper than usual. Exhale. And then say to yourself, I am present and I am free. And then once again, notice your senses. What does it smell like to be here right now? What does it sound like to be here right now? What does it feel like to be here? Do you have a taste in your mouth right now? And then through noticing those things, you can start to quiet that little mind. Call it the little mind, right? It's just that little one, your subconscious, that kind of just starts to meander and move and talk to you. You can start to quiet that using those steps. Come back to a place of stillness. Take about 10 more breaths on this side. 10 breaths tends to be about a minute for most of us. Once you've got to your 10 breaths or you feel like you're ready to exit the pose, move slowly. Come back to lying on your back. You can take the feet wide, let the knees fall together. And again, just notice the right side. Notice any changes in the body, any changes in the mind, any changes in the breath. So this is really a deep form of self-care, is the way I like to look at yin yoga. People feel like they're too busy. They don't take the time to do things like this. They're going to do a 20-minute sprint workout. And some days that's what you need. The other days, it's really important to remind yourself to be slow. Be careful with yourself, be careful with your thoughts, be mindful, and especially this time of year. Just remember what it feels like to be so present and so alive. Go ahead and bring yourself up nice and slow to sit. So we're going to be moving into our second pose. We're going to come into a wide child's pose with a little twist. Most of us aren't going to need any props. If you get into the pose and you feel like you need something, there's no wrong in this. So if you have sweatshirts, pillows, anything, just explore and see what feels good. Sometimes blankets under the arms or the head or in the backs of the knees, all of those things can be really helpful. So you're going to come into a child's pose but with really wide legs. And you're obviously going to be here a little bit, so don't take them as wide as you possibly can. My big toes are touching behind me. And I'm taking them wider than I normally would for child's pose, but I'm also not spreading them to the point that it's going to get too intense as I get into this posture. So you're going to try to keep the hips down onto the heels. It may or may not happen. And then allow yourself just to kind of spread out, drawing the forehead down to the floor. And then begin to walk the hands over to the right. And again, you can take this pretty far and make it pretty intense. You can also just kind of do a little bit. The further you go, the more intense this is going to be. And then I want you to take your left hand and you're going to slide it underneath the right arm so the palm is facing up, and then bring your left ear down to the mat. And once you get here, decide if there's anything that you could use to make it more comfortable. If it feels like there's too much, like you coming down to the floor is too much, put something under the head, a pillow, blanket, put something underneath this left shoulder. You could also pad, like I said before, underneath the knees. Return to the breath. So there's this theory that I was introduced to through a yin yoga instructor. And the theory is this gate theory. And I think it's just a beautiful way to look at these poses. That as you're in these poses, you're kind of on this little journey. It's like you're moving down this path. And there's all of these gates. And the gates are normally shut. Through your breath, sometimes you can kind of lean into the gate and it can open. And when it opens, it's kind of that feeling of a little bit maybe more relaxation, maybe getting a little deeper into the posture somehow. Finding something new with the breath. It's just this new element to the pose. Then you keep moving down the path and you're breathing and everything's the same. And then maybe you hit another gate. And maybe this time you breathe and it doesn't open. And then that's your edge today. And so it's always changing what feels good on your body one day feels very different the next day. So I really find yin yoga, because it's so slow and so still, it is like the epitome of learning to understand yourself and your body and learning to be at peace with both of those. We have about 1 minute left, 9 to 12 breaths. Once you're ready to come out of the pose, always do so very mindfully, very slowly. Then just bring yourself back up through center. If it's comfortable to leave your legs as they are, leave them as they are. If you feel like you need to move your legs out straight in front of you for a minute or so, or bring the knees together, you most certainly can. So yin is very much meditation, which is why it can be challenging for some people, because it is so still. And you definitely are getting into places maybe you haven't been in a while, right? You're kind of checking out those dark corners of your mind and of your body. So know you always have the breath here. And let it just kind of guide you into those spots and see if you can help soften those areas. When you're ready, we'll move to the other side. So if you need to move the legs back into the wide child's pose legs, you can. Start to bring yourself down. This time, we're walking the hands over to the left and taking the right hand, sliding it underneath the left and bringing the right ear down. There's really, like I said before, there's really no right or wrong way to do these poses. So if you feel like your intuition is telling you, hey, move your hand here, hey, what if you did this? Be curious about that, but don't let it become this like antsiness to move. Let it be because you're so in tune with what your body needs that you're letting it speak. Don't let it be like, oh, I could do this and I could do this, and like don't get into that right here. Find your breath and become very intense in your listening. See where that little path takes you, what gates you come upon today. 1 minute left on this side. Find your breath. When you're ready to bring yourself up, do so nice and slowly, reminding yourself that you've been in these poses for some time. The knees are still apart, which they probably are. Bring them back together. So, traditional yin, we keep doing these poses, which is great, and that's basically what we're going to do today. I do like to move the body around a little bit, especially for those of you that are brand new to yin yoga. It can be fairly intense to just keep going straight into these long holds. So we're going to do a really slow little lunar vinyasa, really slow, emphasis on slow and very passive and not your strongest poses ever, but just to keep the energy moving kind of halfway through class. So you're going to make your way to the top of your mat. And I want you to take your feet about hip width apart, maybe a little wider, so not the super narrow. And then inhale, sweep your arms up. Exhale, bend your knees and just kind of fold down, chin in towards the chest, shake the head. And we're going to be coming into Malasana, or garland pose. So if you need to spread your feet a little wider to achieve that, go ahead. Turn the toes out maybe a little bit and come into the slow squat. Bring your elbows out in front of your shins, hands to heart. Take a nice big breath in. Exhale out. Plant the hands down. Lift the hips up. And then step the left foot to the back of the mat. And just feel the hips open, feel release in the low back. Just be very in tune with what's happening in your body. Set the left knee down, let the hips push forward. Inhale, just sweep the arms up. Make it a nice, easy, smooth, open gesture. Exhale, hands down to the ground. You're going to step back into down dog, but keep the knees bent, so we're not straightening the legs at all. Take the feet actually almost the width of the mat. Move the chest back towards the thighs. Spread the fingers nice and wide. And then inhale, look between your hands. Step the left foot forward. Again, just pause here. Notice what's happening in the hips. Then set the back knee down. Go ahead and push the hips forward. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Notice how I'm not straightening my arms. I'm keeping the elbows bent. It's a little more passive, a little easier. Exhale, hands either side of the front foot. Step the right foot forward, but come back into that wide stance. Knees bent. Grab opposite elbows, chin in towards the chest. Turn the toes out. Drop down into your low squat. Hands to heart. Good. And then just kind of let yourself sit back. So the next pose we're going to do, I hope that felt good. Felt good for me. The next pose we're going to do is half saddle pose, which is, if you're familiar with yoga, like regular yoga, it's like a half reclined hero pose. So if you have bad knees or for any reason can't lie flat on your back, I'll give you a couple of options. But if you can, I'll show you that first. So lie down flat on your back. We're going to start with the right leg. So you can do it lying flat on your back like this if you've got super healthy knees. My knees are good. And so I just take a hold of the right ankle, kind of roll to the side, and then I get the heel right by my hip, and the foot isn't like, you know, twerking out to the side at all. Twerking out to the side at all. If you need to sit up first and then lie back, you could do that. I like to keep this knee bent, the opposite knee. You could extend it all the way out. It's up to you what feels best. If this is not happening, instead of lying flat on your back, come to your side and just hold the leg like this. It's basically the same shape, right? But a lot less intense on the knee. So find whatever shape works best for you. You could also, if your knees are just really not happy with that at all, you could do like a tree pose, just lying on your back too. And that would be another possible option. Hands can be wherever is comfortable. Let the exhale be almost exaggerated. The first few breaths helps you to settle in and helps to calm your nervous system. And then notice if there's any residual tension anywhere in the body. Check your jaw, check around your eyes, chest, hips. Is there anything that you can do with your breath and with just by being present to begin to melt some of that away? Open your senses back up. Take in all of your surroundings. And then remember that simple exercise. If your little voice or your little roommate starts to talk to you in your head, take a deep breath, exhale completely, and then say to it either out loud or just strongly in your head, I am present and I am free. And then start to notice your senses and see if you can kind of get your little roommate to take a nap. When you're ready to exit the pose, like always, do so very mindfully. When we do an intense pose that's just on one side, it's always nice to take kind of some processing time. So you can lie on your back with knees bent, feet wide, knees together. You can take the legs straight if the legs are really talking to you. Just try to maintain that presence. If you start to feel at all antsy about being here, about moving so slowly, see if you can reframe it and see it as a celebration of really being alive. See if you can start to see that rather than rushing around and being so packed with to-do lists, which for whatever reason we've kind of taken in this culture to show like a successful day or to feel very much alive. See if you can just take that on its head. Start to realize that it's in these quiet moments. It's in these moments when you're really starting to notice everything that's around you. That's really being alive. That's really treasuring what we've been given here on this planet, and it can really help you to kind of be okay with everything that's happened, with everything that's going to happen. You really get to be the most powerful when you tap into this presence. When you're ready, other side comes into half saddle, and of course, both sides are different. So don't just leap right into one thing or another. So maybe right knee was okay, left knee isn't. You need to come onto your side like I had offered, or do tree pose on your back. So if you're doing tree pose on your back, you'd let the right leg go straight, and instead of having the heel outside the hip, you'd actually move the sole of the foot to the inner edge of your right thigh. And you take that kind of standing tree pose but lying down. Once your body has taken the shape, there's nothing more for you to do, so just close your eyes. Relax the face. Find your breath. 1 minute left on this side. As you feel ready, start to release the left leg from whatever shape it's in. Find yourself back lying on your back, legs taking whatever shape feels the best for you right now. And then once again, just be curious about the result. So I kind of like to think of yin yoga as a bit like alchemy, right? And I've heard people that aren't fans of yin yoga. They say, oh, it goes so slow, and I just have so much energy, and I get that, right? And there are some days when it isn't the right thing for you. But I also think that there are some days, they describe it as like a pot boiling over, right? And that's what they'll tell me. They'll say, I just feel like I have all of this, and if I were, like it's just going to overflow if I let it be still, if I let myself be still. But if you have a lid, and if you have the intense desire to make it happen, sometimes that good boiling water, when you put a lid on that, that's when the magic starts to happen. That's when you can really kind of create this container for change, for transformation to take place. And so we get into these intense poses, and you're working on being still, and there can be a lot going on inside that can almost feel like it's bubbling to the top. But if you have this container, which is your body, if you have this container that's so strong and it's staying still and it's staying put, and your mind starts to join in that, there's a lot of transformation that can take place, and you can really take something that felt like a big pile of poop, right, and turn it into this like beautiful, shining gold, right? And there's a lot of that can happen in yin yoga. So let's go ahead and bring ourselves up to sit. We're going to come into a dragonfly pose. And so a lot of these might look familiar, but you have to remember that these shapes and these poses that we're doing, they're not meant to be physically active. We're not meant to really be engaging the muscles. And so even though it might look like something you're familiar with, don't just jump right into that. So you're going to take the legs wide as comfortable. If you'd like a blanket underneath you, I like to do that just to prop myself up. It feels like it gets your pelvis tilting forward, and it can help release any strain from the low back. If you are using a blanket, just make sure you're scooting all the way to the edge so you're just hooking. It's like basically just hooking the tailbone, and you'll feel that. You'll feel the pelvis tip forward. And then, so unlike kind of what you might be more used to in traditional yoga, where we're flexing the feet, we're engaging the legs, totally let them go. So almost like you're kind of shaking the legs, let the feet just flop, let them fall in, let them fall out, let them do what they want. My legs, I'm not flexing any muscle at all. And then I am just really slowly, emphasis on the slow if you haven't gotten that yet, right? Really slowly starting to bring myself forward. And I stop the moment I feel the sensation of stretching. And I know I can go further, but I'm stopping. And I want you to do the same. And I want you to notice that stretch. And I want you to breathe into it. And that breath can help you to relax. Because when we're stretching, we can't really stretch muscles the way that I understand anatomy and have studied it. Muscles aren't really able to stretch and then maintain that stretch, right? They stretch and then they get pulled back. And so the purpose of stretching isn't so much to pull the muscle longer, because that's basically impossible. what we're trying to do is to relax the nervous system. So I feel a stretch and I breathe into it. I let myself feel that relaxation happen. And when the muscles have relaxed, then I crawl a little deeper. Next phase of sensation, I pause. And you're just going to kind of slowly do this. Close your eyes. That can be really helpful. And I want there to be no hurry because there's no destination. So you're not trying to get to anywhere. Just keep returning to the breath. Find the stretch, even if it's tiny. Feel it, breathe into it, and pause and wait there until you get the go-ahead. And the go-ahead is now that stretch is almost non-existent. I feel my breath moving very steadily, very easily, and then I'm going to keep going. Right? If you happen to get to a place, and remember there's no destination, but if it just seems like you have made it to the point that it's really accessible to somehow prop up your head, that can be a really nice thing to do here using your hands, using a block. But if you don't get there, it's totally fine. Just keep the neck relaxed. And if you're way past that, that's totally fine too. So resist the urge to like flatten the back or push the heart forward or do all those things that maybe we're more used to doing in this pose. Really just relax, like slumpy, slouchy, Saturday morning, eating a bunch of waffles, relaxed. Got about one more minute here. As you start to come close to about your minute mark, or when you feel ready, go ahead and start to slowly bring yourself up. I want you just to pause if you need to bring the legs in a little bit closer to maybe relax the low back a little more. You can. If you need to bend your knees, you can. And again, taking about a minute of just being still and of listening. Talking to the roommate upstairs if you need to. I am present and I am free. And then let your senses open up to being both present and free. When you're ready, we make our way onto our back. One last pose before we get into corpse pose. If you have your blanket, keep it close by. Or if you didn't grab a blanket before, you might want it for Shavasana today, so just have it close by. So we're going to come into a pose that kind of sort of looks like happy baby pose, only it's very much not. In yin yoga, they call this stirrup pose, and we're going to do actually a slight variation on that pose even. So go ahead and lie down on your back. Hug your knees into your chest. And then I want you to take your hands to the outer edges of your feet, and you're reaching inside your knees. So you're going to actually keep your feet together for this pose, and you're just going to start to bring the feet up until it feels comfortable. So my knees are just wider than my elbows and outset my shoulders a bit, letting my big toes touch. And there's zero effort going on here. So I am not in any way pulling down. I'm not engaging anything. I'm letting the feet relax completely. I'm not trying to push them together. I'm using that kind of theory of yin, getting into the shape, and then just letting the body kind of take over from there. So yin yoga is really fascinating because the lineage is very different than most yoga traditions which come from India. Yin yoga actually stems from China. And so in these poses, rather than working like with chakras, like you do in most yoga, you're actually working with meridians, like the ones that are used in Chinese acupuncture and Chinese medicine. And so these shapes are really important because the idea of each of these shapes is to open up a certain meridian in the body. And that's why Sanskrit names aren't used. It was kind of their way of making themselves a little different than traditional yoga. And if you are watching me right now, for whatever reason, you can see I'm actually kind of massaging my feet a little bit. So I'm adding a little tiny bit of effort here, but it just feels so good on my feet, which have been stuck in high-heeled boots a lot lately. So if that is something that sounds really nice for you, kind of use this as a chance to massage the feet, but keep it easy, keep it simple, don't add too much effort here. About another minute or so. Slowly start to lower the feet down and then just pause with the feet down. Hands still holding the outer edge of the feet. Heels are just now a little closer to the butt. This can feel really good on the low back, so spend some time here if you'd like. Our next stop is our final pose stop, so Shavasana. I really like after all of that we've done, you might not feel like you've done a whole lot physically, but you really have, and chances are you'll feel it tomorrow in areas that are kind of unexpected. And so anyway, I like to make a little bolster for myself with the blanket and place it underneath my knees after yin practice for Shavasana. It's just a really nice way to help kind of relax the low back and get just a little bit more comfortable. So you can use a blanket if you have a bolster. That would be nice to use here too. Find yourself lying down, tucking your shoulder blades under you maybe a little bit. And that just helps to kind of open the chest and make you feel a little bit more grounded, is how it always helps me feel. This is the only pose that's really the same. No effort, eyes closed, face softens. Staying present, staying in kind of this mood of celebrating life, celebrating yourself right now, celebrating life everywhere. And really remembering that is what this season, this holiday season is all about. So maybe dedicating yourself right now to being a little bit more mindful for the rest of the season. Even if you're not celebrating holidays, just this winter season, it's kind of asking us to be slower. If you look at nature, right, they're conserving energy, animals are hibernating, leaves are falling off the trees, days are shorter. So don't fight that. Don't make yourself crazy busy. Let yourself go to bed a little earlier if you can. Let yourself say no if you need to commitments. And just take care of yourself like you are right now. Allowing yourself to really enjoy everything that's around you, wherever you are right now in the world. Letting each breath be thought of as a gift, because that's really what it is. Body you've been given, also a gift. Really just a vehicle for your spirit to take good care of it. As you start to fall deeper and deeper into your Shavasana, allow yourself to be very mindful of the back body. Noticing every square inch, square centimeter of the skin on your back body and what it is in contact with. Noticing the back body getting heavier and heavier, feeling yourself relax more and more with each breath, until you slip into this space of pure presence, of pure gratitude, of pure celebration. And then let yourself just suspend in time and space right there. Deepen your breath. Start to invite slowly some small movements back to your body. And in whatever way is easiest for you today, and without rushing, bring yourself up into a comfortable seat. And once you're there, close your eyes. I'd like to end class today with a chant. So it's one of my favorite chants. Some of you have probably heard it before. In English, the translation just means, may all beings everywhere be happy and free. And I say just means, but that's a huge prayer, a huge hope for the planet. And I think this holiday season, that's really my wish for all of us, that we're happy and free everywhere. And so we're going to chant the Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu chant 3 times. If you know it, please join in. If you don't, please listen. So sitting up tall, we'll begin just 3 rounds, back to back, no break. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Go ahead and bring your hands together at your heart, closing the eyes, bowing the head. Thanking yourself for making time to really take care of yourself today, so that you can better enjoy the season, so that you can better care for others, and so that you can really celebrate life and all of the beauty that's around you, and be present and powerful as we move on into our day and every day. Thank you. Namaste.